Hello everyone, my name is October. I am the owner of October Studios, and I recently put out a game called Penitence New Blood for the 2022 Returners Jam for Smile Game Builder. In today's video, I'm going to be doing an impromptu tutorial on how to export your game from SGB to Unity, and how to do some other stuff as well once you're in Unity. And I will also go through some troubleshooting that you are bound to come across. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so first things first, you have your game. It is 100% completed, and you are ready to export it to Unity. I'm going to assume that you already own the Unity exporter utility, and that is already on your program. So let's just go ahead and start by saying, in case you don't know this already, you need to make sure that your game is 100% done before exporting to Unity. If you export to Unity and you find that there is something that you need to fix in any event whatsoever, even if it's one typo in the credits, you will have to discard every change that you made in Unity since exporting, come back to SGB, make that change, and then re-export and redo everything you had just got done doing in Unity. That is a massive pain, and even though you may have already heard this and you think you're good, just double check, triple check. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of pain in the long run that I kind of had to go through myself with this last submission. So once that is complete, I'm going to use my actual project. This is Penitence New Blood. This is the mansion map here. Let's go ahead and go to our utilities, go to Export Unity. Now all of this is already in place. This is all pretty self-explanatory. You can go ahead and put whatever you really want in here. For this, I already have a folder in my desktop that I'm going to actually place this into here. So right here. It doesn't really matter where this goes, just make sure you know where it is. I'm just putting it on my desktop for the sake of the tutorial. This omit unused. If you are familiar with RPG Maker, you know that this button can cause some issues. I don't know if it does that in SGB. I've used this with it on and off, and I really didn't notice anything wrong with it at all. So I'm going to just keep it on for now. Next, we're going to just go ahead and click export. This may take a few seconds depending on the length of your game and how big it is and everything like that. Okay, exporting has been done successfully. So here we have our entire exported project. Inside the assets folder, you can see that you have this entry.unity. This is how you're going to actually open the game in Unity. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, but before that, I just want to say one of the issues that I have had with exporting to Unity, at least in my version, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but it's the fonts not going to the Unity version. So in order to fix that, inside of the resources here, and oh wait, no, sorry. Inside of source here, we're going to go into resources, and this font.ttf, we're just going to put our actual other font that we already have for our game, and we're just going to replace this font.ttf. I'm not going to do that now, but you should be able to figure that out for yourself. Just letting you know for future reference, if your fonts don't export, this is how you fix that. So we're going to go ahead and go into Unity, entry.unity. This is going to open our exported SGB project directly in Unity. And you're going to get these messages. This is all fine. Make sure just to click yes and continue. Don't worry about any of this. Okay, so your game is now open in Unity and it's going to look something like this. If it doesn't, or in fact, what you should do anyways, is come up here to default where you see this and just go ahead and click 2x3. This is pretty good layout to use. This entry here, this is what you should think of as your title screen, even though you don't really see anything. This is required to get into the game, and this also contains most of the scripts for everything in the game running in the background. That isn't an event, on a map. So, in order to get to your maps and actually see them in here, you're going to want to go to Map, scroll all the way down until you actually see these Unity icons on them. These are the actual maps. And then you're going to want to go ahead and just double click whichever one you want to start with. So I'm just going to go ahead and do, let's do the mansion. So down here, this is going to be your main camera. If you were making a normal game in Unity, you know that you could use more than one camera. However, with the SGB only having one camera, there's only going to be one camera in Unity. And I wouldn't add any others. I don't even know what would happen if you tried. I'm not sure if SGB would even recognize that or if something would break, so I would just stick to the camera. It might be placed in an odd position. For me, it's outside of the castle or outside of the mansion. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that so that way I can see things. Here we go. So as you can see, we can now see down here what the camera can see. Once you get into the game, wherever you have the camera positioned using the X and Y coordinates, this is the camera that will be teleported to it. Therefore, any effects or post-processing that you want done needs to be done on this camera in order for it to work. So, the first thing that we're going to tinker with is just placing basic lights. Let's just go ahead and start with that. So, the first thing we're going to do is come up here to Game Object. Come down to Light, and for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to use point lights. You can also use spotlights, directional lights, and area lights. However, a lot of these require baking, and that is a whole nother tutorial. So we're just going to use point lights. Because we are using real-time lighting though, and shadows, this game is going to be a little bit more, requiring a little bit more performance from a PC and a GPU. And that's something you're going to need to think about when you are using lights in Unity. So, as you can see, we have a bright white light right here with a range of 10. Color is white. As you can see, this is real-time lighting, intensity of 1, and the rest of this doesn't really matter, besides shadow type. Right here, you can see us turning on shadows. Now you can see these shadows here and everything. That's how you do that. And you can also use the strength, all of this. I'm going to assume you know how to use these kinds of things. As you move the light, you can see the shadows move. This is where you really need to get creative, you need to get artistic, you need to understand how lighting works, at least to a basic level. Right here you can go ahead and change the color, depending on what you need. Pretty self-explanatory. One thing to note, and I'm going to go ahead and do this just so that way you can see what's going to happen, and this took me a long time to figure out. So when you are making lights in Unity, and let's say I wanted to make another one, and I copy this light by clicking it, Control C, Control V, and I move it over. Do you notice what happened? The lighting seems to have broken, almost. It doesn't even seem to work anymore. It seems like this is the one working, but it's a lot dimmer. And this one, or that's actually the light around that. We can delete that actually, I don't like those. So notice this one doesn't work at all. And the reason for this is because if you go to Window here, go to Rendering, and then you go to Lighting Settings. Scratch that. I am totally wrong right now. So you actually have to go to the camera. Sorry. So you go to the camera, and is it this one? Yes. So you come here to Rendering Path, and you're going to have to switch this to Deferred. I don't know exactly what is happening. All I know is that Unity only allows so many real-time lights with this not being on Deferred. Once it's on Deferred, then you can go ahead and just place as many lights as you want, and it will all work fine. So that is the first troubleshooting issue that I encountered solved. So after that, let's go ahead and see what other sort of things you can do in Unity with the SGB exporter here. So one of the things that I don't like about the limitations of SGB is without actually editing the models, it's really difficult to move things on its Z-axis. For example, this torch, let's say I don't want it this low on the wall. What if I want it pushed up? Or what if the model, like right here, you can see has some clipping issues? Well, the good thing about Unity is that you can move all of this stuff. Assuming that it's not an event. If it is any way an event that has any sort of functionality to it, if you have made a model into an advanced event, that model, first of all, will not show up in Unity here. So for example, let's go back to SGB and look at this mansion. Let's get a good example here. So, kind of hard to find one. Okay, so yeah, just these barrels right here. They show up in the editor in SGB, but these barrels are, as you can see, advanced events that when interacted with break. However, in Unity, oh, sorry, not Unity. Here we go, Unity. In Unity, you can see these barrels and the doors, for example, are not showing up. That is because those are advanced events and they cannot be edited in Unity. And that is why, if, let's say, I needed to make a change to any of those, if I needed to do that, I would have to go back to SGB and get rid of all of the lighting and everything that I've already been doing in Unity. So, like I said before, just make sure that you know you are done with your game before doing this Unity process. So, like I said, besides evented models and things like that, you can go ahead and move all of this stuff, all of the extras to wherever you'd like. So, one little trick here, by the way, that I found that I like is if you click an item and you accidentally move it and it leaves behind something like a flame, what you can go ahead and do is just when you have that one piece selected, like that, come over here and you can see that you actually have the whole item here. And if you click the parent of the child here in the folders, you get the whole thing highlighted. And it's just a really easy way so that you don't have to fiddle with trying to control and select all of them together. So then you can go ahead and just move things around, move them up, you know, just do whatever you need. That is the one great thing here about Unity. For example, I really like these trimmings. These are not meant to be used in this way for the doors here, but when you place them in SGB, they don't really sit flush here. And so what we're going to do is just move that over like so. And then we have a nice little flush trimming to the wall. Now, one more thing, regards to lighting, is actually two more things. Shadows. In Unity, once you have that deferred thing on, shadows are going to start doubling up. So if you have every single light on here casting shadows, you're going to start seeing double shadows. That's just something to be aware of. What you can do to counter that is to come in here, and once you have a light selected and you see you can do no shadows on just some of them if you have two lights next or right next to each other. Another thing is, let's see here. We'll get to the next part. So once you get some lights down and everything like that, let's say you want to change the ambient lighting. You can come into rendering again, go into lighting settings like I was showing you before, and you can see here that your ambient lighting and everything is imported from SGB. So here is the pinkish sort of ambient light that I had set in SGB. One thing that I noticed, and you don't have to do this, but if you are not using the skybox, this can cause some problems if you don't want environmental reflections on here. I would just do a custom and then just do none. That's how I fixed that for myself, and that kind of just fixed the lighting because it added a it kind of washed out the colors for me. I don't know if that's going to do that for everyone else. It really just depends on your game, but yeah, that's how to fix that. So if you come in here and you want to change some things, you can obviously come in and change the color of the ambient light, make it darker. And one thing that you probably will notice is in SGB, you don't have the same sort of lighting. So coming in here, the lighting might be a little bright. So you might want to actually make things darker than you normally would. But again, that is just something depending on your game, your style, your art style, whatever you're going for, that's up to you. So that's how you change the ambient lighting in here as well. Everything else in here, you don't really need to mess with. If you know what you're doing, you can, but. So next we're going to come into our camera, and we are going to see some of the things that we can do with the camera. So the first thing that I would do is turn HDR on. That's going to allow for some other effects that you will see coming up. Okay, so in your camera, there are components here. And what we are going to do is download a component from the asset store. Okay, so we are going to be adding an asset pack that's going to allow us to add some post-processing effects to our main camera. In order to do that, we're going to need to come up here into Windows, and we're going to go to Asset Store first. Now, this asset pack is a little pricey. There is a way to do some of these effects without buying this asset pack that I'm about to show you. However, it's a little bit more involved of a process. It requires you creating a volume layer over every map and then making the effects in that layer and then referring to that effect layer on your main camera using a post-processing layer there as well. That's a little bit more involved in this next process I'm about to show you. we're going to come up here and we're going to find Beautify. And we are going to, if I can just expand this just a little bit, let's see here. We're going to find Beautify 2 Advanced Post-Processing. It costs $46. It is very simple to use, very powerful as well. So I highly recommend this pack. So yeah, this is it. You're going to purchase the pack and then you're going to import the pack. Now in here, you're going to see all of this. And then we're going to want to keep this just on the built-in pipeline right here. And then we're going to go ahead and click import. Okay. Now you can see in our assets over here, we now have Beautify. And here's the Beautify built-in plugin. We're going to double click that. And now we are going to import all of this right here. Okay. This may take a second. Okay, now to get out of the asset store, we are going to just go ahead and click scene here, and this will take us back. Now, on our camera, we can now come down to add component, and you will now see this one. This wasn't here before. This is called image effects, and you're going to click that, and then you'll see rendering, and here is your Beautify scripts. Notice as soon as I put it in, it already starts making some changes using the HDR setting that you already had applied. Right here, this matters quite a bit. So depending on PC, this is what you're going to be doing. Now, the quality level can be custom adjusted. However, I didn't find a need to. So I just made, for safety, and even with this set to best performance, I tested my game on quite old laptops, and it did not work very well. So just letting you know, this is very power demanding using lighting and shading like this in post-processing effects. So just keep that in mind. But we're going to go ahead and keep this on best performance just for now. Right here, you can kind of see this sharpen. This is going to be like your anti-aliasing. And as you can see, that's very self-explanatory. Dither, you know, all that's very self-explanatory. Vibrance, Daltonize. If you are familiar with this kind of stuff, then you know what this all is. You have your bloom. So let's go ahead and, you know, add some bloom. Or no, that's anamorphic. So here's the bloom. We're gonna go ahead and click that. And I do not like these little halos. So there we go. We've got some bloom on our lights. And to adjust that, you always just go back to your main camera, and down here you'll see the bloom. Now we can change the intensity, the threshold. Yeah, that's how you can do bloom. You can do anamorphic, which does this really cool sort of flare effect. Just be careful because when you're moving at higher speeds, these do flicker very, very badly. So you don't want them to be too crazy. There's like stuff like blur. You can make them vertical if you want them to be vertical. You can lower the spread amount. You can change the tint. So yeah, that's how you do anamorphic. You can do sun flares on the actual light itself. One effect I really loved for my game here was the lens dirt effect, as you can see. Very pretty. It adds a classic, almost Edison vibe to this hallway. We have depth of field if you want to do something like this. Unfortunately, the depth of field in the post-processing effect that comes with Unity does not have an auto focus effect. This one does. And that is why Beautify is really cool. It is a little difficult to get the settings exactly right, but I'm sure with enough tinkering, you guys can figure out the kind of depth of field that'll work for you. So yeah, that's depth of field. That's bloom. That's lens dirt. Okay. We can do chromatic aberration. And you can see here the edges of the screen kind of do that effect as well. That's always nice. You can do vignetting, framing, outlining. Outlining is actually really cool. It adds this sort of comic sort of vibe when you do that, and you can also adjust that as well. We also have these other fun effects like night vision, thermal vision. You've got blur effects, you've got pixelize. So yeah, these are all really good tools that you can use with Beautify. Post-processing tools, sorry. And so yeah, that is pretty much it in regards to the lighting. I told you guys about the issue you might have with it not showing up if you have too many lights. Oh, okay, here's an issue that you might come across. Let's go ahead and move this camera so that way we can see. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just turn this camera and we are going to also, we're going to come down here just for now so that we can see this. We're going to turn off these effects. Okay, now we're going to move this camera. Oh, lens dirt still on. Okay, oh, we can't use this one. Okay, let's go to this other one down here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click play. I know it's a little blurry, but do you see the textures right here changing? That is something that might happen during the export. I don't know why. First, I'm going to change this depth of field to off. And turn the sharpening back down. It's pretty sharp. So the way to fix this is to select the actual item that's breaking. So as you can see, this is compiled into two pieces. You have the flame up here, which has a material and a texture. Excuse me. And then you also have the torch itself, the wood piece. Whereas here you can see it's labeled as cube. For some reason, it includes the UV animation script from the torch with the entire item. I don't know why. That's just something that happens during the export. Just go ahead and unclick this, and we're going to test that out again. And you can see that fixes that issue. Another item that has that issue but is a different fix, slightly different, is these candle torches here. As you can see, there's this weird item here, the sphere item. As you can see, you're gonna have to delete that in every single one in your whole game, pretty much. That's the only way around that. And you're gonna have to do the same thing for any models that have animations like the torches here that I was just showing you. You're gonna have to do that for every single one. Unless someone knows of an easier way to select them all and do it all together, as you can see. We're gonna do this again, just uncheck that animation. And that's how you do that. So, now if you are in a scene where you can't find your camera, do not panic. Just go ahead, come up here to these three little dots, and in case this hierarchy tab isn't here, you're going to go ahead and go to Add tab, and you're going to go ahead and click Add Hierarchy. Now this one's here, so I'm going to go ahead and close that tab. So here you can see your mountain. These are all of the items in the entire map, as you can see, but at the very top, you'll always have your main camera. And then you can always just drag that to you, like so. Okay, so you've gone ahead, you've done your lighting, you've done your post-processing, and let's say you are happy with your game. You are ready to export. So we're going to come down here, we're going to go to Build Settings. You're going to go ahead and leave this on Windows unless you are planning to use one of these other ones. If you're not, you're going to next go ahead and click Player Settings. And this is where you're going to be able to, start full screen, exclusive full screen, stuff like this. You're going to be able to allow it to run in the background, things like that. This is where you can change your icons because those will not export from Unity. So you're going to have to do this again. So if you have a 256 icon, go ahead and throw it in here. Everything will be fine. If you have a different size, they have them all as well. You can also change your default icon there and your default cursor here. You can change your type, your version numbers. Down here you have more settings for, resolution, or, well, you can just go ahead and go through here. Here's your more splashes, things like that. So after that, you got all your settings done. You are ready to export. So you can do that by going to build and run, which will automatically do it, or as you just saw, come into the build and settings and you can do it here as well. I wouldn't mess with any compression or anything like that unless you know what you're doing. So yeah, once you build, you can go ahead and choose the folder you want to build it to. I'm not gonna build it. This game's already submitted to the game jam and is up and ready to play. If you'd like to try it out. I think that kind of concludes the video. If there's anything else that you guys want to know how to do, if you guys want to know how to do the post-processing with the Unity version and the layering, like all that, like I showed you, without paying the $50 for Beautify, I can go ahead and do that. I don't know if I'll make any more tutorials. I just kind of mind my own business in the community for the most part. But if you guys do want more videos, I can, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, well, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.